We all know who the elite of the elite players are in the Big Ten Conference. We know J.J. McCarthy, Marvin Harrison Jr. We know those All-American types, those potential Heisman Trophy candidates. But what about the players that aren't receiving that preseason hype? What about the players that deserve a little bit more love headed into 2023? What about the underrated players in the Big Ten Conference? Before we get into that, just a reminder to hit subscribe if you haven't already. Big Ten content all offseason long. Always crush that like button to spread the word of Big Ten Ted to the masses. You know what I think this list really shows? I think this really shows just how deep the Big Ten is at certain positions, at certain skill positions, defense, offense, defense, any of the positions. There's a lot of great players at many different spots within the Big Ten. And you take some of these underrated players that I'm going to mention, you throw them in the Big 12, you throw them in the Pac-12, you throw them in the ACC, you throw them in some of these other conferences, and they might be some of the best players at their respective positions in those other conferences. So I just wanted to touch on that here to start in this video. So much talent at so many different positions in the Big Ten Conference. Okay, let's start with a player on a team that made it to the Big Ten championship game last season. And despite being underrated, I think he was one of the driving forces to why the Purdue Boilermakers won the West Division and why Purdue made it to the Big Ten championship game. And that guy's name is Devin McAfee, right? I think a reason why he was such an integral part to this Purdue offense is because defenses couldn't just sit back there and play coverage against this Purdue offense that historically, or at least in recent history, like to throw the ball with Aiden O'Connell. You couldn't play coverage against O'Connell, against Payne Durham, against Charlie Jones. Now you had a little bit of balance to your offense, a little bit more oomph in the running game, and Devin McAfee really provided some oomph in that running game in some of those games last season. He ran for 968 yards and 9 touchdowns a year ago. He received more than 15 carries in only 6 games last season. So you got to think he's going to receive 25 carries a game without O'Connell, without Jones, without Payne Durham, without some of those threats in the passing game this season at Purdue. Now, I think a big reason why he's underrated is because the Big Ten is just so damn good at running back. They are the conference of running backs. I don't doubt that for a second. When you looked at the Blake Corums and the Nick Singletons and the Travion Hendersons and the Braelon Allens of the world, that's as good as it gets at the running back position in college football. And I think Devin McAfee is underrated in terms of Big Ten circles because of how many great running back duos there are as well. But Devin McAfee, I believe, should receive some respect. Okay, because after those elite running backs, those 4 that I mentioned, I believe Devin McAfee is right there. I think he's right there. He is a tough runner, man. I love the way he just always falls forward, keeps on turning ahead. He's the bowling ball rolling down the lane, knocking over pins that are Big Ten defenders. And he's going to receive, I think, more attention this season, both from defenses and from the Purdue offense, because although Hudson Card has received some positive reviews coming out of camp, I think this is an offense that could maybe pass the ball to provide balance, to maybe run the ball a little bit more. This Purdue offense still should be balanced. Out of all the players and the coaching staff, everything that they lost on offense, Devin McAfee is the spot that comes back. I think he's underrated when it comes to some Big Ten running backs out there. He is one of the better backs in the Big Ten. Don't sleep on Devin McAfee. Don't sleep on the Purdue Boilermakers. Okay, let's go from offense to the defensive side of the football. Muma Jongmeta, Wisconsin linebacker, played on a defense with Nick Herbig, played on a defense with Keanu Benton, and he was still in top 10 in some categories across the entire Big Ten. Let's take a look at it. 11.5 tackles for loss last season. That was 5th in the Big Ten. 50 solo tackles, 95 total tackles. Both of those good enough for 7th in the Big Ten Conference last season. He put up big numbers while playing with and alongside Keanu Benton and Nick Herbig. Now you take those guys out. He's going to be the focal point. You got to think Wisconsin is going to move him around a little bit to really take advantage of his ability to get in the backfield. Man, he sniffs out running backs. He sniffs out quarterbacks in the backfield, maybe better than anybody in the Big Ten Conference. When you look at linebackers this season, I think a lot of eyes are drawn to Abdul Carter and Tommy Eichenberg and some others in the Big Ten. As this season goes along, Muma Jongmeta is going to make his presence known in being in that top linebacker group across the Big Ten Conference. Now, there's probably going to be more attention, like a lot of these guys, where players leave and now they step up, there's going to be more attention drawn to them. But this is a really good linebacking group for Wisconsin. I think that's actually going to help Muma Jongmeta really explode even more this season. When you look at C.J. Getz and Jordan Turner, bring in Michigan State transfer Jeff Petrowski, I think there's enough players on that linebacking core that could maybe put some fear into some offensive lines a little bit. So maybe Muma Jongmeta can still experience the same amount or even more success and be one of the Big Ten top linebackers. Need to put some more respect onto Muma Jongmeta's name headed in to 2023. All right, let's go back to the offensive side of the ball. Maryland is an explosive offense. They distributed the wealth. Corey Dyches is a player right now he's not on any of the all Big Ten preseason lists, at least according to Athlon Sports, right out of the gate. And Corey Dyches, all Big Ten honorable mention, easy for me to say, last season. 494 yards, 3 touchdowns. They have him listed at tight end, 6'2", 220 pounds. He can get out and play wide receiver. You can put him in all sorts of different parts of the field in the passing game, and he's such a hybrid that I think it creates a lot of matchup nightmares for defenses. Now, I mentioned they spread the wealth a lot. There were a lot of players that they got involved in the passing game last season. Okay, a good amount of those guys are gone. You bring back just Jeshaun Jones and Corey Dyches. I think Corey Dyches, if he kind of plays the majority of his snaps at tight end, he could be maybe one of the more athletic tight ends. He could be a tight end that could really vault into one of the better ones in the Big Ten Conference. And there are, like I said at the beginning of the video, tight end is a position where there's a lot of good players, and Corey Dyches is one of them. Man, there's going to be more of a priority put on Corey Dyches in this offense. And I think a big thing for his productivity is you still got Jeshaun Jones on the outside. They've brought in some good transfer wide receivers. You still got Roman Hemby running the football back there at running back. This is still going to be a balanced offense, and I think you could see Corey Dyches take steps forward as more of an explosive playmaker in this Maryland offense. So watch out. Respect. Put some respect on Corey Dyches headed into this season. All right, save the best for last. Well, at least the most important position for last, and that's quarterback. I've got Minnesota quarterback Ethan McManus as an underrated player entering 2023. Okay, I think the reason he's underrated, I think a lot of people look at last season, well, he just turned and handed the ball off to Mohamed Ibrahim a lot, which is true. But when you really saw the ball in his hands, when you really saw him take advantage, okay, it was that game against Wisconsin where they really began to trust him throwing the football and making plays down the field. 19 of 29, 319 yards, 2 touchdowns. That last one to Lemeke Brockington put the stamp on the game to allow them to get the axe and beat Wisconsin in Madison. You saw the potential that he had in that game against Wisconsin. I think that's the first part of this. I think the second part of this is the offense isn't going to be turn in hand. You don't have Mohamed Ibrahim. You've got a stable of running backs this season, and you've got very good players on the perimeter. Chris Ottman-Bell is back. Brevin Spanford, that's as good of a wide receiver and tight end combination as you're going to find across this great conference. And then you look at transfers Elijah Spencer and Corey Crooms, Lemeke Brockington. All of this talent is going to make Ethan McManus look better, put up more productive numbers throughout this season. You know, there's a lot of people out there that are putting some of these transfer quarterbacks, the Altmaiers, the Cards, maybe they look good in spring ball, but they haven't played Big Ten ball. Okay, I think a big part of Ethan McManus's development has been playing that chunk of Big Ten games last season, because if he came in as a green guy, hadn't played really, coming into this season, I think I'd think of Ethan McManus a lot differently than I would right now. But that experience is going to be incredible. It's going to be so big for Ethan McManus, that experience playing Big Ten defenses last year. And now you get a full offseason, and then you go in with all of these weapons. I think Minnesota is an underrated offense as a whole. This is a team that can win the Big Ten West. And I think a big part of it is because of the quarterback play, is because of Ethan McManus. He's going to be dependent. They are going to depend on him a lot more to produce this season, and I think he can put up some big-time results. I want to hear what you guys think. Did I get it right, or are there some players that I missed? I'm sure there are some players that I missed. There's a lot of talent in the Big Ten, right? So there are some underrated players that I missed out on. Leave those in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'm Big Ten Ted. We'll see you in the next one.